Hi everybody, welcome back to another edition of Little Kitchen Academy Instagram Live. I'm very happy if you can join us today. We're making something super delicious. This is one of the the greatest hits of Little Kitchen Academy.
Correct.
I think the children all love this. Parents talk to us about it, you know, weeks after our students had made it. They sometimes made it at home. So good, and kind of, I don't know where you're watching from. Today's a bit of a gray, rainy day here in Vancouver. This is a great activity and a great lunch or snack you can make today. Today we are making, everybody knows what a tater tot is, I hope. Delicious little hash brown potato.
Just a little bit of perfection.
Oh, delicious. So we are taking that idea and we are making a spaghetti squash tot.
Love it.
And I'm hoping we're gonna have time to make some of our own Little Kitchen Academy homemade ketchup. Because again, our students lose their minds over that.
And parents are surprised. They don't believe us that their kids
true.
made it.
It's true, yeah. And again, like virtually all of our recipes, this one has got so many tools you can use, learning opportunities, different techniques. Really, really fun. This is a great one. So
really good one.
we will post the recipe for you later today or tomorrow. This is a great one to make at home, and it's a little bit longer than some of the other ones we've done, so we're gonna get started right away here.
Nice.
So what we're gonna start with, I've washed my hands, I've preheated our oven to 400 degrees, and I've got a spaghetti squash. So they look like this. I think that's pretty, like that's a smallish size one. Sometimes they're much, much bigger. They're nice because they last quite a long time. If you buy one, like I do sometimes, and forget about it in your fridge for a week and a half, it's gonna be totally, totally fine. So we'll start with the spaghetti squash. I just give it a wash and a pat dry on the outside. We're not gonna eat the skin, but it's a good idea to just wash them well. And you don't eat these raw. They definitely need to be cooked, and we're gonna roast them. So you can roast them whole. You can also cut them in half this way. For this recipe, because we're making a smaller amount, as we always do with our students, I'm gonna cut it into rings. So this part, we would probably do for our students, because it's quite difficult to
Maybe
cut
our teens, maybe, but no, you're right.
Yeah, our teens that are using the level 4 knives would be able to do that with, you know, with some supervision. The little ones, we would do it for them. And then you get this nice ring of squash. So I think one day this week we were talking about the melon baller.
Yeah,
this
such
is
a good tool.
Super fun tool. When the students come in and they get to see their own personalized little station with all their own equipment and tools, I find often when they're going through it for the first time, this is one of the first things they pick up because they don't know what it is.
Which surprised me big time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks like a mini ice cream scoop, so that's why I gravitate to it right away. And technically, it's for scooping perfect spheres or balls of a melon, but it's got quite a few different uses, and this is one of them. On the inside of the squash, it's got sort of like a pumpkin, like the guts and the seeds, and we want to get that out. And using a melon baller is a great tool for that. It's got a you know, slightly sharp edge, so all ages of our students will enjoy doing this part. We're just going to scoop.
While you're scooping, Johnny M10 said he used to cut the squash in half, and then when he saw the rings, it changed his life.
Amazing.
Changed his life.
Yeah, both ways will work for sure.
If you're gonna cook in it and use it as a bowl, it's nice to do it on half.
But cutting it in rings, it's also going to expedite the roasting time a little bit, which is nice.
It's sometimes what we need.
Sometimes you want it in a hurry, yeah. So there we go. I've scooped out the seeds and sort of the fleshy guts in there. I'm going to put it on a roasting pan.
We have some lovely screen names. Heidi Blatt, I recognize her. She's been on a few times.
Nice.
And Sweetheart's Baking.
Oh yeah, Sweetheart's Baking.
Lovely.
Welcome.
What a lovely screen
For everyone joining us, we're going to be making some spaghetti squash tots with homemade ketchup today. These are really delicious. So I'll pull out another of our most popular tools here. The kitchen paintbrush. This is always a hit.
And there's 3 colors, which can cause quite a stir.
The colors for the little ones, that's always a big deal. So, I mean, the recipe calls for, I think, about a tablespoon here. It depends how big your squash is. You just want a light coating of oil on your squash. And this is gonna just sort of help it caramelize a little bit. It's gonna help the cooking process along, not let it dry out. So we'll give it a nice brush down there.
So Miss Sarah Budd said that Heidi's birthday today. So if we had a candle, we could
well,
put that in the squash.
I think
for
spaghetti
her.
squash tots is a very decent birthday lunch.
No
I'd be into
kidding.
this.
Maybe we have to get Sarah to make this for Heidi tonight
Yeah.
as a birthday present.
So nice. So I'm going to season this with just a little bit of salt and pepper. And again, we talk all about different units of measurements here, and we teach our students all of those. One of the most fun ones, especially for the little ones, is a pinch. They all love doing that. And then a nice dramatic little sprinkle.
And followed up with a sneeze.
Yeah. Okay, so spaghetti squash, brushed with oil, salt and pepper, and it's going to go into a 400-degree oven. And depending on the size of your squash, how big you've cut it,
How fresh
I don't
it
know,
is.
how long it's going to take. You're going to just need to open the door probably after 15 minutes, give it a poke with a fork.
Yeah.
If it gives really easily, it's ready. I think it could take anywhere in between 12 and 30 minutes, again, depending on how you cut your squash.
And it's you can smell the difference, right? All of a sudden you'll smell that sweetness, that moisture in the air. You'll know.
Yes,
Better
it
sense of
definitely
smell.
helps. Anytime you roast anything, it helps
Yeah.
to bring the natural sugars out and it really sweetens the flavor. So I pre-roasted one piece here. You can see it's got some nice golden brown color there. Has a nice smell. And I want to make sure you can see this part because it's so great. This is why it's called spaghetti squash. So we will take a fork
So much fun.
and using the tines, the top part of the fork there, I'm just going to drag my fork through the flesh of the squash. It's quite warm still, and you can hopefully see here.
Oh, they look great.
I mean,
This is shocking to our students.
yeah, it looks like spaghetti. I think it's probably shocking to a lot of adults. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's one of those vegetables that you see there all the time. It's like,
What do I
what
do
is
with
that?
it? Yeah.
What do I do with that? So we actually have several recipes that we do with our students here using spaghetti
Some
squash.
of our most successful ones. Do you remember the egg nest?
Yeah.
When we did this, this is a really successful vegetable.
Absolutely, and I mean, yeah, I hope you can see that.
It
How
looks
fun
awesome,
is that?
yeah.
And it's just,
Look at that.
there's no other vegetable that's going to do that like that, and it takes no effort.
Yeah.
You just pull your fork through, and it comes out in perfect spaghetti. You could even at this point serve that with a
Yeah.
marinara sauce and some Parmesan cheese and basil.
You're done.
Delicious.
I mean, perfect for our gluten-free students
Absolutely.
to replace the spaghetti, but it's also nice if you just want more nutrients rather than a plain spaghetti noodle.
Absolutely. So when we're doing this with our students, obviously we'll make sure it's had a chance to cool down because it gets quite hot in there. And I mean, an activity like this, especially for the 3 to 5s, they often will be happy working on this for half an hour.
For sure.
It's extremely satisfying. And you really, I think they really feel like, you know, you can see what your effort has produced here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And what's nice is for picky eaters, you know, children who are a little nervous about these kind of things, they will taste this as they scrape.
They will.
They're
And
too curious.
I do think that we, in this environment here, we give our students an opportunity to step outside themselves and to not be picky for a
Yeah.
day. You
Yeah.
know, I feel like we've had so many parents, feel very worried that their children are very picky or aren't interested in trying things, and you
Yeah.
put them in this sort of environment where they're participating, they're seeing their peers, you know, often eagerly sampling, and it's amazing how much they're right in there. Yes, and roasted squash is irresistible to them, it seems. So.
Sometimes when children are described as picky, it's because they don't have the language skills yet to describe what it is they don't like. Oh, I don't like how sweet it is or how mushy it is. You know, they can't say it, so they just say, I don't like.
Yeah, and I mean, children often have to taste something up to 7 or more times to begin to accept it.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes at home, you know, maybe we'll offer it to them once. Nope, they don't like it, and that's it. We write it off forever.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important to keep offering, keep trying, keep offering it in different ways,
Yeah.
and most importantly, model good eating.
Totally.
If the rest of the family is eating a variety of colors and textures and flavors, it's much more likely that your possibly picky eater will too.
Yeah.
So I've used a knife to just cut it a few times here so that I don't have any long strands. And I want to end up with approximately 3/4 of a cup of
Okay.
this squash. So it's quite forgiving, I think.
Brian Curran says it's one of his favorite dinners ever.
It is so good. Yeah, like I say, we actually I recall one mother of one of our students, I think weeks or even months after we had prepared it, came in and was like, oh, we still make that at home. You know, it was one of the best things. It's on our regular rotation at home now.
Some people think it's they're like, this is what I would pay for, pay money for this in a restaurant. Like they can't get over it.
So good, and it's full of vegetables, and it
Yeah.
kind of tastes like a treat. So
Yeah, it is a treat.
I'm
for
going
sure.
to just put this, I'll leave this here for now. So I've got my spaghetti squash in here,
Yum.
and I'm gonna add a few ingredients now to sort of bind it all together.
And you know, it might be worth mentioning that even if the spaghetti squash has been roasted and left to cool, it's still, you can still scrape it. Just for
Absolutely.
your little ones who might be too nervous if it's too hot.
Absolutely. So we're gonna add some garlic here, and for this recipe, this is another thing I really love doing with our students, is we're doing some roasted garlic. So
Smells so
I wasn't
good.
really able to show you with this one, but when I was cooking the squash that I used here, towards the end of the cooking time, I took a few whole cloves of garlic with the skin on, I brushed them with a little bit of olive oil, and I just popped them onto the same tray that I was roasting the squash on. And I think those took about 10 minutes or so. You just want to put them in at the end because they don't take that long. And again, I think the students are amazed to see the transformation
Yeah.
that happens to the garlic from this hard,
Yeah.
sometimes it almost tastes spicy to them, it's so
Yeah.
hot. You put it in the oven with some oil, it softens up, and because of all of the natural sugar in garlic, it gets really sweet.
Yeah. We
So
described it almost like a jam.
you
right?
can
Yeah.
turn it into, like
Yeah.
a sticky jam.
Delicious.
So you don't need to use roasted garlic in here, although it is lovely. It adds a really mellow garlic taste. You could also just finely chop up some garlic and pop it in there.
Our South Surrey and Kelowna franchisee, Ange just joined. She may want, you might want to remind her, this should be like one of the first things you do.
Yeah,
when
and
you
this
open.
is a winner,
This
this
is a
one.
massive
Really,
winner.
really
Yeah.
nice. So this is our Little Kitchen Academy spaghetti squash tots with house-made ketchup. We've got some roasted spaghetti squash in here. I'm gonna add my roasted garlic, and because it's so soft, I can just mash it right in with my fork.
So good.
Yeah.
I wonder if Braden's watching today. If Braden's watching, he would have eaten that garlic raw. He would have eaten it right out of the oven. He's
I
a
love
fan.
it. I love it. Okay, so I've got my roasted garlic in there, and I'm gonna add just another. Did I put salt and pepper? No, that was on there.
No.
Even though I salt and peppered it before it went in the oven, I'll just add a pinch more. We want these to be well seasoned.
And they never give take away an opportunity for the kids to season these things. They just love.
Yeah. And our philosophy here is, as you're cooking, taste everything as
Yeah.
you go. There is only one exception to that, and that, of course, is raw egg. So once we've added raw egg to something, we won't taste until it's cooked, but we actively encourage our students to taste as they go. That really is an important part
Yeah.
of learning and of cooking. So I'll stir that up.
And it helps them in the end because we change everything. You know, like here it is raw, and let's see how we change it.
Yeah,
It's
how do we
pretty
change
cool.
it? And it's another opportunity for them to feel ownership over what they've made and
Totally.
participation in what they've made. So we did a little demo of this yesterday. One of our favorite skills here is egg
Amazing.
cracking. And I think anybody watching would be shocked at how
Shocked.
well even the 3-year-olds do after 1 or 2 tries at this.
Yeah.
So we always crack into a separate bowl, not into our main ingredient bowl. We hold that still. We're gonna make a nice crack right in the center of the egg. And once we've got a little crack, both thumbs go in. We open the door and bloop, there it goes.
Very good.
All right. So, yeah, my squash has cooled off, so I'm gonna just add my egg in there. Again, I'm just using a fork to stir it around.
Nice.
Yeah. And next ingredient is some Parmesan cheese. So we want about 1/4 cup grated. Again, that's fairly flexible. If you can, using an actual block of Parmesan that you've grated, it's gonna work much more nicely in this recipe versus the pre-grated. This has
Yeah.
got much more flavor, a nicer texture.
Yeah.
And if you've got your children helping you in the kitchen with this, or if they're doing it on their own, grating cheese is a favorite activity.
Yeah, every time.
Yeah, it takes a lot of hand-to-eye coordination, concentration.
And Kitty, for our students that wouldn't be eating eggs, we could do a flax egg or a chia egg, something that's going to
Yeah.
represent a glue,
Something
right?
that's just gonna hold it
bind
together a little bit,
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, so I've got about a 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan, and I've used the smaller holes, the fine holes. That's just going to help to distribute it more evenly throughout our tots here. And that's mainly for flavor. It's going to bind it a little bit. But again, if you don't eat cheese, you could leave it out, or you could use whatever cheese substitute you use. But it does add a very nice
breadcrumbs too, if we needed to.
We are gonna add some breadcrumbs
Awesome.
here. Yep. All right. So next comes our Panko breadcrumbs. So again, these come in almost any grocery store. You can get these gluten-free. We're gonna use regular ones. Panko is a Japanese style of breadcrumb, and it's a bit coarser than a regular breadcrumb that you would use. And this one is gonna take 1/2 cup. Okay, so we've pulled out our amazing measuring cups here, which is very clear to see that we've got 1/2 cup here.
Was that a pun? Very clear to see?
Ah,
It might have been. It was good. It was
punny
good.
without even realizing. Okay, and I mean, one of the things also we're always teaching here is how to measure correctly. You know, very early on, the students learn that's not 1/2 cup. And even the youngest ones can tell us, nope, that's more than 1/2 cup. So again, this is learning while doing. They don't even feel like they're sort of having a math lesson, but throughout the whole class, there's so many opportunities for learning.
Yeah.
So our 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs are gonna go in there. Again,
I think there's a massive difference with panko breading and regular breadcrumbs. Panko just has such a beautiful coarse texture.
Yeah.
It doesn't keep the oil, it doesn't absorb the oil.
Yeah.
It's way better.
And I mean, if you've only got regular breadcrumbs at home, it's for sure it is going to work, but the panko does add a really nice texture, a bit of a crispiness on the outside, and that's acting as a binder to hold it all together. And it's also going to absorb a lot of the liquid so that these get that really nice crispy tater topness that we want.
I'm drooling just thinking about it.
Oh man, they're going to be good with the roasted garlic in there, and the cheese, and the squash has just got such a nice, sweet, mellow flavor. Okay, so you can see that there.
Beautiful.
It's really, if you just let it sit for 30 seconds or so, the panko really does its job and just sucks up all of that extra liquid there.
Yeah.
So baking sheet, and again, you can use the same baking sheet that you roasted your squash on. I'm going to brush it with a little bit of oil again. This is to help the tots not stick, and it's also to help them get a nice golden brown.
Yum.
So at this point, you have a few options. If you really want to get into it and get everyone's hands in here and get dirty and make a mess, the best way I think to do it is to dump the whole thing out, use your fingers to kind of pinch it into a long log or sort of snake shape, and then use a fork or a knife to cut it into little tots. That's going to give you that real tot shape.
One of my favorite things is seeing what our children consider tots versus, big mammoth logs or big rocks of
It's true.
deliciousness.
Yeah, when we're doing with our students here, again, particularly with the younger ones, we will see all kinds of shapes. Some maybe will have one giant tot and one baby one, all kinds. Some are very precise and measured with what they do, and all of it is great. It's all going to work out. So we can also just use 2 spoons, and we want to spoon them out. Whatever method we're doing, ideally they will be close to the same size. That way they're going to cook the most evenly.
Yeah.
So sometimes if maybe one of our students has made, one giant one and 3 micro ones, we might just even them out for a little bit. We want it to be a successful, a successful end product.
I do find you're right, like the littlest ones love to make the biggest because their reasoning is usually, I want to share it with my family, right? They see it as bigger is better, and we can all enjoy it together.
Well, and they're all just such beautiful little artists. I mean, often these are coming out in star shapes and heart shapes and, starfish shapes, whatever. So, I mean, I think the color of this is so beautiful too. They're just the most brightest yellow.
And that's what's fun about it too, because they've made it here their own way, and then when they go home and they take the recipe, those shapes are going to be that much more refined, that much more even, and every time they do it, you'll see an improvement.
Yeah. So yeah, for time and sort of keeping tidy's sake here, I'm not going to roll it with my hands, but really if you're doing this at home, I think that's the way to go. I think that's a really good way for your children, for our students to sort of getting your hands in there. You get to know the product that you're making. You can really feel what's happening. So
agreed.
Great. I'm going to just pat those down a little bit.
They look awesome.
They look great. So those are going to go into a 400-degree oven. I'll keep an eye on them. I might even use a spatula and flip them over if you're baking one, so although it's not really necessary, you'll just get a more even bake on them. So those will go into my 400-degree oven here. And again, that is going to depend on the size that you made them, how long they're going to bake, but approximately 20 minutes or so.
Yeah. And that's a good amount of time for the kids to start collect all the ingredients for the next recipe.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you just want to keep an eye on them. Flip them if you can. You want them to have a nice golden brown color. That will ensure that they're a little bit crispy on the outside. And then you need something to dip your tots into, of course.
Yeah, you do.
So we are going to do this super fast and easy ketchup, and
it's ridiculous.
Well, it's amazing to me how much it tastes like store-bought ketchup. I think sometimes when you're trying to replicate these common products, they don't really taste like what they're supposed to taste like, but this is a winner. So we're going to use some canned diced tomatoes. We want about a half of a cup here. And I'm using our amazing little Magic Bullet blender. So if you have one of these are great because they're wonderful for small batches. If you don't, a regular blender or food processor should work fine. Okay, so.
This is great.
Yeah, this is a really fun one. And
it's already smelling so cheesy and delicious in here.
So good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm very happy.
Okay, so half a cup or so of canned diced tomatoes. You could use the whole tomatoes. It would just, it might not be as smooth, your ketchup, in the end. These diced ones have most of the seeds taken out. So
I love this recipe because as you work at it, you can start to really build on flavors and change things, make it spicy, make it sweeter.
It's true. So I've chopped up a little bit of red onion. You could use white. I do find reds or purple onions a little bit sweeter, which goes nicely with the ketchup. A small clove of garlic. So that's going to go in there as well. And again, for Instagram, I've done it ahead of time, but of course, in class, the students would be doing all of this themselves. So this ketchup, while it is very quick and easy, it can also be stretched out over a good long time.
And the people that are watching, I'd invite them to consider how excited these kids would be, knowing that they were making their very own ketchup at this point.
I think it is actually mind-blowing. And like, I think sometimes students or even adults, like you don't even consider the possibility that you could easily make something that is so commonly purchased and served everywhere. And again, what's great about making it on your own, you get the experience of making it, but you know exactly what's going into it.
Agreed.
There are no preservatives, there's nothing, nothing too crazy going on.
It can't sit on your pantry for 6 months.
No, but it won't because you'll eat it so fast. So I've got my canned diced tomatoes, a little bit of red onion, a little bit of garlic. I'm going to use now 2 teaspoons of tomato paste. And that's going to just really bump up that tomato flavor. And that's a fun thing doing with our students as well. Like, look at all these varieties of tomatoes. What does a fresh tomato look like and taste like? What does it look like when it's canned? What is tomato paste? How does it taste different?
Yeah, that's a great, we actually haven't done that one, like set them up like that. Like that's a great
But this is a good recipe because it's got a few of them in there. So now,
Tiffany, you got a big thumbs up from Tiffany Bell. She's pretty excited.
well, yes, if you could smell and taste these, I think you would be very impressed. So I'm going to use some apple cider vinegar. It gives ketchup that sort of tang that it's got.
Yeah.
And again, that's going to be 2 teaspoons. And you can see how easy this is. It's all just going to go in the blender.
It's ridiculously easy.
Okay. And of course I grabbed one that's not open here. So regular ketchup has got a ton of sugar in it. The nice thing about doing it on our own here, we can modify how much sweetness we're putting into it, and we're using maple syrup. So a little goes a long way here. This is a nice easy one. This is going to be 2 teaspoons as well. Okay.
I'll never forget the time the mom came in and you know, parents are so fun, right? They come in, they have a little sample of what their kids have made, and the mom's like, oh, this is great ketchup, and you know, oh, they made it. No, they didn't.
They don't believe it
They
sometimes.
They don't
well,
believe
and I
it.
think they often don't believe, and this happens to me even as an instructor sometimes, I can't believe how good it is. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm watching what's happening, and I'm thinking like, oh, I'm glad everyone's learning.
Yeah.
Too bad this isn't going to be delicious, and it
It's
always
delicious.
is. It's really great. So this might be a new product for some people, certainly for some students. Almost all of us have had mustard on a hamburger or hot dog or sandwich or something, but this is dry mustard. So this is like ground up mustard seeds. It's got a beautiful yellow color. It's got quite a kick. So we're just gonna put a little pinch in there.
Yeah. Or you got a drooling Sarah Bud. Miss Sarah Bud is drooling right now.
All right, and I mean, nothing is more fun than trying to get students or adults to pronounce Worcestershire.
I think we spent 20 minutes one day.
I love it,
in
I
doing
love
this.
it, yeah. So this has got a really sort of salty, it gives it a little kick as well. You don't really taste it in there, but you know what's in there.
It's
And
like a
that-
je ne sais quoi, right? Like
je ne
what
sais
is
quoi.
it there? I don't know what it is, but I love it.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff in there. So I've just given it a little dash. It says 1/8 of a teaspoon. It's not much, so let's put a little pinch of pepper, and then we're gonna buzz it up. Oh, and a little bit of salt too.
Good. This is shocking. I think people will be surprised at knowing that we let our 3-year-olds students do this next step. People are always amazed.
Yeah, and they do well every time. Of course,
Yeah.
some students are, you know, nervous or not sure, and we are here to help them if
Yeah.
they need. So we've got a high student to teacher ratio. There is, you know, our student safety is our #1 priority, and we're also there to guide and help when needed.
Yeah.
So we'll screw the base on
You've just
here.
been, there's a taste tester offer. Gabby
Oh.
Kern has offered to come and taste
Thank you
test.
for that. I'm going to do all my own research development and product tasting here. I purposely saved room for my lunch today. So I'm going to give this a good buzz here. So you can see why we wanted to give the onion and garlic a little pre-chop. It just helps the process along. So we're
Yeah.
almost smooth there. I see a few more little lumps. I'll give it a couple more seconds.
I think we've given everybody a good insight into having 11 of these going at one time in class.
It's so fun. Yeah, I love it. All right, so now we're gonna cook our ketchup a little bit. So this is another fantastic science lesson about the process of reduction, of reducing. When we add heat, the moisture evaporates and it gets thicker and smaller. So that's gonna be our main thickening agent for our ketchup, but we're also gonna add a little bit of cornstarch, which will help to thicken up as well. So my ketchup will go right into the pot here. This is just a little itty bitty batch, because again, this is the size that we would make with our students in class. This would be enough for them to have some with their tots at lunch, and maybe enough for them to take some home.
It depends
Although
on their
I feel like
enjoyment.
a lot of this will get eaten up. So we'll just get that going over sort of a medium heat, and we're gonna make one of my favorite cooking words now, a slurry.
Good
So
word.
fun.
Yeah.
And a slurry is just a little mix of cornstarch and water. And we want to do that to sort of begin to dissolve and soften the cornstarch. If you just throw it right into your ketchup, you might get a big gummy lump of it, and that's not tasty. So
Do you know that induction's already, like the smell, I can smell it already over
Yeah,
here.
no,
It's
it's-
spectacular.
yeah, they're so great. And as Felicity was mentioning, all of our students from 3 and up will be using their own induction, their own pot, and we are there to instruct them and guide them on how to use it safely and correctly.
Sandra wants to know if it was mustard seeds or mustard powder.
That is an excellent question. Mustard powder.
Yeah.
So mustard seeds, I mean, you would just get a really tough, grainy lump. So dried mustard powder is what you want to use.
Yeah.
If you didn't have this, I think you actually could just use the tip of a fork or knife, tiny little bit of prepared mustard, either yellow mustard or Dijon or whatever you've got. But the dry, it doesn't add any liquid to it, but it does add that that little tang, and it's not even quite heat. But okay, so 1/4 teaspoon of cornstarch, And it just needs
I think this is the second recipe we've done that I wish we could smell. The other time was when we were harvesting tomatoes. I wish we could pass the smell through the screen.
I mean,
it's awesome.
So nice. The ketchup smells tangy and sweet. The tots smell amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's my slurry. I'm just mixing the cornstarch and water. My ketchup is just starting to bubble away here. Because this is such a teeny little batch, it's not going to take much time.
Nice.
So if you can
Thank
see
you.
there,
And it's changed color a bit,
oh,
which is so
it
cool.
smells
Yeah.
so good. And then once it comes up to temperature here, so I just want it sort of gently simmering, all at once I'm going to add my slurry. And
Johnny 10 says, could we pestle and mortar the seeds? And he's right. His kid, like he said, the kids love that tool. It may not be for this recipe.
yeah, I mean, if you want your kids to work on something for like 7 hours and you're going to be standing
Perfect.
beside them, you know, insisting that it be smooth, you could give that a go.
Yeah.
I do think a mortar and pestle is a really fun and interesting tool, especially sort of, I don't know, 7 and up. And we do have them here.
And they're gorgeous.
Yeah,
Like,
here's
come
a
on.
little baby one. But I think in this recipe, because we want a beautiful, smooth ketchup that's going to sort of replicate what we're used to getting from the store, we would use the powder or liquid ones. So the key thing with cornstarch, when you add it, you definitely want it to come back to a hard simmer or a gentle boil, and you want to cook it for a couple of minutes. If you don't, the thickening process doesn't happen completely, and you will often get sort of a chalky, unpleasant
grainy
taste in there. So
Yeah.
that really needs to be cooked right out. And yeah, I wish we had smell-o-vision here because
this
it
is ridiculous.
smells like
Yeah.
ketchup.
Yeah.
It's so good. Okay, so that is boiling away there, and it's reduced a little bit naturally just from the heat, and then that cornstarch is kind of just giving it that final push to thicken it there.
That's something the kids love, the steam. They can't get over all of that liquid evaporating, right? They are amazed.
Yeah, and I mean, that's science. It's so great, yeah.
Who needs school? Who needs school? This
Who
little
needs
kitchen.
to-
Science, 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 science.
Okay.
Good.
So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. We'll do our best to answer them here. I'm going to plate this up for you so you can see how it looks.
Delicious.
Oh man, yeah, it smells so good. So, my tots are in the oven still, looking gorgeous, but we've got some that
Perfect.
our Chef Sarah helped prepare for us here. And I mean, how delicious do those look?
They're
They look like tater tots. So I think these would be an amazing lunch. These would be a great side dish with dinner.
Yeah.
This would be great with a big salad, or if a meat eater, or whatever you've got going on the side. These would be great with breakfast as
Yeah.
well. Like
Yeah,
a
with
plate of
fried egg
those
on
with a
there.
fried egg
Yeah.
or some scrambled eggs. Yes, please.
Maybe we should just make this again tomorrow as a breakfast.
So good. And I mean, I think you would eat all of these in one sitting, but if you didn't, you could for sure keep them in the fridge and just rewarm them in a 300-degree oven the next day for a little while. Okay, and
Perfect.
some of my...
Yeah, we're dying to see the ketchup.
So obviously this is smoking hot because we've just finished it. In class, or if you're doing this at home, we would give this time to cool down.
This is where the kids would be washing dishes
Yeah.
and cleaning their
Exactly,
counters.
setting the table, getting ready.
Yeah.
But
look
I
at
mean, honestly, like
perfect. Thank
like
you.
you're in a
Katie.
diner.
Look at that. Yeah.
and having
I mean, that's what all the the big name restaurants now are making their own beautiful ketchup, and there it is.
And again, if you like spicy, throw some chili peppers in there.
Yeah.
If you like it a little bit less sweet, you can dial back the maple a little bit. If you don't have maple, use honey instead. It's quite flexible, and I think your children will be thrilled
Yes.
at how ketchup like this is.
Yeah. And you'll be thrilled.
Yeah, I feel happy knowing that I know what I put in there, and it's all, really good ingredients. You've got at least a full serving of vegetables in there, a little bit of protein from the egg. Super fun, great skills to practice. So those are our Little Kitchen Academy spaghetti squash tots.
Well done.
With our house-made ketchup.
Delicious.
And yes, if you had any ketchup left, I suspect you won't, but if you did, you could put it in a little, glass jar or something with a lid. It'll be fine in your fridge, I don't know, for 3 to 5 days.
Yeah.
But really, this is great.
won't
We do an
last.
amazing oven veggie burger here. We've used it on that. It's great on scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
I know the world is divided into 2 camps of macaroni and cheese with ketchup and without.
You have to have it.
Well, I'm
for
going to
sure.
disagree with you there, but we made macaroni and cheese the other day. This would go great on there. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope everybody is doing well at home, and we look forward to seeing you same time, same place tomorrow.
Nice. Well done, Katie.
Bye, everybody.
Delicious.